In Kew Gardens, amongst the flowers and the trees, live our pollinators like butterflies and bees. Some live near ponds, like beetles and hoverflies, whilst others live near grasses when they're not buzzing through the skies. Delicate and bright, the flowers are in bloom, attracting the insects with their sweet perfume. The mason bee wants nectar, nature's sweet treat, and gets pollen all over her body and her feet. The plants need bees to carry pollen as they fly, from tree to plant, buzzing through the sky. A pollinator is an insect that helps plant make seed and fruit. Without them, flowers cannot reproduce. Time rolls by, autumn comes at last. The apples ripen, falling to the grass. When apples lay on the ground, they perish and rot, but their seeds then flower to form the next lot. So thank the pollinators like the birds and the bees. Without them, we wouldn't have seeds. Let's get to know our new friend, Violet, the oil beetle. She has 6 legs and likes bathing in the sun, and needs to make a new nest to lay her new young. You see, one of the pollinators doesn't just help the plants and trees, and that is a solitary mining bee. The baby beetles are called larvae, who are black, and need to travel on the mining bee's back. Unlike honey and bumblebees, solitary bees dig nests that are mined, and that is who she needs to find. She knows they eat nectar, which they love, from the flowers high above. Wait, look! What has she spotted fluttering by? Yes, you got it! It's a beautiful butterfly. Butterflies have a straw-like tongue, which they use to feed their tums, with nectar that is so delicious, and this is called a proboscis. But that is not who she wanted to see. The butterfly is not a mining bee. She travels over the hill and beyond, and finds herself a lily pond. What does she spot? A hoverfly, who is collecting the nectar and pollen supply. But that is not who she wanted to see. The hoverfly is not a mining bee. Continuing on with many flowers to behold, she finds herself amongst marigold. She looks up at the marigold, and what does she catch in her sight? She spies the moths that come out in the day and the night. But that is not who she wanted to see. The moth is not a mining bee. She hears a funny squawk and looks around and sees a fan of colours, blue, green and brown. It's a peacock who does not pollinate our plants. He is just doing a dance for romance. But that is not who she wanted to see. A peacock's not a mining bee. A dandelion for her is a very tasty treat, so she clambers up the stem and takes a bite to eat. But as she crawls upwards, it begins to wobble. The tall and spindly plant slowly starts to topple. She crawls all over buttercups, pollen sticking to her. She'll carry this to the next plant. She's a helpful little creature. Just when she thinks there's no chance, she looks up and catches a glance of a bee, a wonderful bee. But it's not the right one if you look close and see. It's a bumblebee who is fluffy and cute, but can't help the larvae on their long commute. That is not who she wanted to see. A bumblebee is not a mining bee. She wanders over and looks at the roses, pretty for our eyes, smelling sweet for our noses. Something's buzzing in there. It's small and black and yellow, but it's just the honeybee and not our special fellow. It carries pollen to its hive, the perfect food for their young brood. But that is not who she wanted to see. A honeybee is not a mining bee. Next she wanders through the daisies, hoping she will see the one and only long sought out mining bee. When she looks up, she can't believe her eyes. Something's flying from daisy to daisy. She feels like she's won a prize. Collecting nectar, buzzing from left to right. It's she, solitary mining bee, the most amazing sight. Now she knows just where it is. She digs down deep below, creating a special hole in the soil for where her eggs will go. She lays them there, and time passes by. The larvae then will hatch and crawl up the stems and onto the daisy, where they wait for a ride to catch. They sit there on the flower and wait for the mining bee. When one finally lands, they sneak on board and off they go. Yippee! The bee flies home through the gardens, right back to its nest. When they arrive, it will crawl inside to the place the larvae rest. The bee scuttles in, larvae still on its back. They're all now inside, the life cycle on track. The larvae make a home there, eating the bee's food. They grow and grow and eat and eat. They don't mean to be rude. But they do not grow into bigger larvae, they grow into something else. They emerge from the hole as oil beetles, off to pollinate flowers themselves. So thank you to our pollinators, our beetles, our moths and our bees. Thank you for letting the fruit and the vegetables grow from the plants and from the trees.